Welcome back to the Washington State Pinball Stronghold, a fortress protecting a silver ball since 1990. I'm your host, the Black Knight, and I'm here today to display another of my restorations and part of my collection from the Zale early zipper flipper series, notably Bally 1968 Dixieland. Now this particular game of mine, as you can see, in the last few months I've decided to kind of reorganize and allow people to see some of the Zale collection in a single line. It's pretty difficult because of course there is 19 that he designed out of 30 games that actually use these zipper flippers, but specifically they're getting very difficult to find. Some of them are easier than others. In this particular case, this Dixieland, that was the original game, was developed in terms of its design in October of 1967, and then it was started to be produced in production in April of 1968. However, this game in particular, the one I have here, is very special. And the reason being is that it is actually a documented, home use only, 50-year-old game that was bought by a millionaire at the Bowers Mansion in Reno, Nevada. Eventually, about 29 or 30 years later, it was purchased for private use by a family, which then owned it again for another 29 years. So as far as age is concerned, it is extremely in exceptional condition. The cabinet, the playfield, the back glass, and every portion of the parts is original from the factory and nothing is missing. So when I did this restoration, it took me roughly about 800 hours to do this soup to nuts, and it turned out absolutely beautifully. And you can see more pictures of this both on Pinside. I did a restoration thread called Dixieland, a restoration journey, or you can also see it at the Internet Pinball Database, which some of the photos of this were uploaded because they did not believe that the playfield was original. It has not been retouched except for in a couple small places. And what we're going to do today is like what I always do, is I'm going to go through the introduction like we're doing here, then I'm going to go through the gameplay and the features and in sequence. And the next shot that I'll be doing is I'll be taking the manifold glass that you see off the playfield so you can see the playfield, and we'll go through each measures of the features that are actually on the gameplay. As far as the game itself is concerned, out of all different Zale designs that he did from 1966 until 1973, this is a very well balanced game. It plays extremely well, and as far as the players are concerned, I think it's quite fair. So without further ado, stand by, and now we're going to go into features. Okay, in the second part here, we're going to go ahead and talk about the features of this specific playfield. It is another typical asymmetrical design that was common by Zale. He was very innovative in regards to his designs. And it features 2 zipper flippers, 3 pop bumpers, a Mini-bagatelle playfield, 4 mini mushroom bumpers, a captive hole, and a series of other gates that will go into a bit more detail as we go through. So the ultimate goal of what you're trying to do with this game is on the back glass. This has another carryover lighted feature, is spelling Dixieland, which allows you to gain credits. And the way you do that is you either spot the saucer, you can see at the top here when it's at 500 with this clarinet bonus, or you go through the center of the street light when it's lit at 500. And the way you do that is as follows. The number of features this game is actually pretty significant when it compares to many other EMs of the same period. As you plunge the ball into play from the beginning of the shooter lane, there is a rebound skill shot from this rubber ring right here. And what that does, that's actually really important for this particular game because it hits and lights the 200 rebound that you can see at the top. But not only that, it also powers up this key gate that you see off to the left. And that is a save function for the ball in case the ball goes down this way. It obviously awards you those points, but that's not the critical factor. This gate will remain open and locked throughout that entire ball until it resets, of course, at which point that once it resets, it will go back to its neutral position. Now the key is, once you go through that gate, it presses this indented playfield button here, and then of course it causes the gate to close. Now how do you control the zipper flippers on this game? Well, simply put, it is this red mushroom bumper that you see in the middle, which makes the game very accessible to most players because it's actually a pretty easy shot to hit. The two yellow mushroom bumpers that you see on the sides open the zipper flippers here. They also additionally add bonus to the clarinet that you see here, which is a separate score reel stepper motor in the back box. Now, so ultimately what your goal is, even though you can get caught up in the pop bumpers and stuff like that, is as you plunge the ball into play, you want to get that rebound shot off it to the right. Have it drop through the center, get the additional bonus. Not necessarily get the key gate. And as soon as the ball starts to roll towards the bottom of the play field, then you want to go ahead and shoot the shot with the zipper flip or the flippers, the 22-inch, and hit the center shot so it will close them. Now, it's not as hard as you think, but a lot of people get thrown off. The one thing that I'm not sure if I always mentioned in the previous portion for the introduction, there were only 1,800 of this particular game made, and at this point, the number that are in this condition is practically zero. They just got played out so much. The other factor is there's another one-way gate which is controlled. You can see that there is two buttons here, and what these buttons do and this point here is if you push this and the ball rolls over top of it, it actually opens this one-way gate and blocks the return from the Mini-bagatelle playfield, which is Basin Street you see here. So it's kind of a death shot. So if you roll over this, you actually want to make sure you roll over this before you would be in Basin Street, which then closes this one-way gate. Now, rolling over the button here when it's lit here for this also opens the classic Ted Zale one-way gate function, which you see on this side, which again remains open, however, once it's open until, of course, the ball rolls back into the shooter lane, which then it touches this switch here. So the two ways that you can maximize your scoring with this particular features is to increase your clarinet bonus using the yellow mushroom bumpers. Run through the Basin Street, which of course is another bagatelle with those standard pins, which are really just nails, and keep shooting those shots. Now the ultimate thing is the increase of Basin Street. There's a special street light that you see here at this portion here. This does not actually go on until you score up to 300 points on your clarinet bonus. Once it reaches 300 points, this light will come on. It will actually effectively double or more the points that you receive from going through Basin. Keeping in mind, the interesting thing is, if you go through Basin Street and it's lit and you hit the middle shot here, it actually will reset it. So you won't actually have the full ability to be able to add a letter to Dixieland on the back glass, which is required to be 500 points, not 300 points. So that's your basic rundown of the playfield functions. So one other thing that I've mentioned that people don't really have a tendency to know about, and I actually have to come around the other side of the playfield to kind of show it to you, is on this one-way gate that you see up here, there's a single standard leaf switch. And that leaf switch is designed to power the high power of the coils and the rest of the function for the solenoids of the game. And the way that normally works is when the game is fully coined up to full credits, it activates a relay, which then tells the game that the game is actually ready to play. You can disable it and do that, but if you want the game to be originally factory, it should have that switch, meaning that if it isn't working properly, this game will not play, meaning the flippers won't flip, the pop bumpers won't pop, and nothing else will actually activate on the playfield other than the switches until that switch is fixed. If for one other final note in terms of just features in general, once again, this is the original playfield condition. It was slightly touched up when I did the work on it to a little bit around the pop bumpers on the rings, but other than that, this is pretty much exactly the way I found it, other than it being dirty. One final note in terms of the design for Bally games, for those that aren't aware, when it comes to electromechanicals, unlike many modern late model games, although I can't show it to you directly, most of them have a power on switch, which is underneath the cabinet here on the right hand side. And it also allows you to disable or shut the game down when it's off. All games starting from in the early 60s, they didn't have that feature. Now the game, of course, you'll see is it will turn on by the left flipper, but there's no practical way to turn the game off, and a lot of operators would do is they'd install a toggle switch or a push button switch to do so, because the only other way to turn the game off is to turn off the power to the game, meaning to unplug the cord. Now in my case, I actually have a remote control unit which allows me to power the game on and off, because when a game like this is plugged in, it's always on. So then the final part that we're going to do, we're going to discuss some bits of the scoring, and we're also going to discuss the gameplay, and you're going to be able to see the game in action, so stay tuned. Alright, let's get Dixieland fired up here and get some good bell action and some clarinet bonus. So you can see I just fired up the game, looking for that skill shot at the top. Skill shot was made. Next thing you want to do is look for that zipper flipper shot in the center. There it is. Okay, we're at 500. You can see I already actually had a carryover, so I'm going to go ahead and manually play just so you guys can see all the features. I want to talk about some things that I didn't talk about directly. When I did the mushroom bumper, I talked about this one here. If you don't get that rebound shot at the top, this mini mushroom bumper will fire this key gate. And that's what will stay locked throughout the play until the ball rolls through the top. Okay, so now you can see it just reset. So now if the ball rolled through, it'll roll all the way to the bottom of the playfield. The other one I wanted to talk about is Basin Street. Basin Street right now is lit for double points equivalency, which instead of 10, 210, it's 100, 500, and 200. If you hit the 500 shot, it works the same way as the clarinet bonus at the top, which then will award you a Dixieland letter, which right now it is spelled out Dixie. If I spell out land, it'll give me another credit. So, talking about that depth shot, first we'll go through the bagatelle. Okay, that's just a standard bagatelle. It awarded me 200 points because it's currently lit. Okay, it's actually a pretty fair shot if I get in here. You can see how I just did that for one flipper. Not too bad. Not too bad. Okay, close this zipper flippers up. You want to get that clarinet bonus, we'll add that L, put to the score. Okay, you can see, so that just added an L, there you go, you can't see it, to the back glass. Keep in mind, this is a one-player game, so you get what you get. Now, if the key gate, sorry Christian, the zipper flippers are open, okay, you cannot have this free gate open, but you can have what I call the death switch, and this is the death switch. Okay, if you saw closely, it opened up this one-way gate. That means if it goes through the bagatelle playfield and that free gate is not open, guess what happens? The ball is going to drain closed. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have a free ball gate open, or make sure that that particular one-way swinging gate is closed at all times. Still didn't get a skill shot on that, but we did get the bounce. Okay, so there goes the one-way gate. So that key is you want to get on that button right here and open that one-way gate. Now as long as these zipper flippers are not closed, you can see that closed now. If the zipper flippers are closed, the free gate ball is not an option, just like other Ted Zale games. So you need to open up that zipper flipper in order to open up that free gate, which now knows if you have this one-way gate up here, guess what happens? It'll roll through, but it'll keep the ball so you get another shot. So that's the secret to a good game. If you're going to play through, make sure those zipper flippers are closed at all times, if you're going to go through this, and make sure this gate is closed, otherwise have that free gate open, and use these yellow mushroom bumpers to rack up your score to 500, where it either will go through the basin street and hit the 500 here, or up in the top in the clarinet itself, if I get it through there. Okay, the key gate was open on that one. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to come back and cut back. You can see the free gate is open again. We're going to play it as normal without me interfering. And the ball went down the three-way thing. And that was it for one more game. So we'll do one more game for the masses, just to see the action of the game in its prime. Okay, still didn't get a skill shot. Got the rebound. Super flippers are closed. The flippers are now open. I've lost the shot. Zipper flippers will always reset after every ball. It's not a carryover. That's 2 balls. Last ball, last game. And the 200, we got through. See if we can get it through the bagatelle one more time, and we lost it. So once again, for those that are Ted Zale collectors, or those people that are Ted Zale enthusiasts, this is a great example of a great design game by him. And if you can get your hands on one, keeping in mind there are replacement parts for some of the game, but not much. But if you do need a replacement backglass, BG Restro has got you covered. So Black Knight signing off from the Washington State Pinball Stronghold. Keep flipping.
I'm invincible! You're a loony. The Black Knight always triumphs! How about you?